for sure.
This is season 9, episode 1, number 349.
Ninth year.
The start of our 9th year. Can you believe that?
Yes. In a word, yes, I can. Last night, just as I was kind of crashing, was I crashing? I think I was crashing. Karen's like, she's brushing her teeth, and she leans, so where the way our bed is kind of faces, I guess, this way, and the bathroom is over here, and I'm just kind of zoning out, and I sense like she's kind of looking into the bedroom from the bathroom. She's leaning back and she's brushing her teeth. She's like, "Do you and Chids like?" Actually, she calls you Roland. Do you and Roland decide ahead of time what you're going to talk about? And it's a good question. You and I have crossed this bridge many times. I'm like, nope, nope, have not. And she's kind of, and then she kind of pauses mid brush. Really? I'm like, yeah. We just, I mean, there's sometimes clues depending on what we're sharing during the week, right? There's some breadcrumbs that we can decide to follow. I said, but it's usually, I said, really after I said ironically tomorrow, like, after 8 seasons, it's a little bit more intuitive and kind of stream of conscious, right? It's sort of, we start with a topic and it kind of leads to another thought, and then one of us usually notice it's been an hour and change. We're like, okay, cool, we're good, on we go. I said it's very much like it has a sort of like a take your vitamins kind of mindset. Just kind of get in, have the conversation, connect. She goes, I know, like, you two, you talk a little bit before you go live. I said, yeah. And I said, sometimes the on ramp is longer than the actual uh, cast. Like, then just ratio. I said, sometimes, the on ramp is 45 minutes and our podcast is an hour and 15 minutes. I said, there's no actual rule. There's no actual rule that we try to follow. I said, I told her a few times, we let go of a lot of that when we stopped doing our actual uh, get up and go podcasts of our own, bringing guests in and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of cool that she would ask that question at the front end of season 9 starting, because I don't really see, I'm open to it, but I don't see any other way to do reflective practice, connecting with you and just kind of enjoying the conversation. I did tell her, I said, both he and I are incredible conversationalists. So we'll just like flow through the conversation, allow topics to happen. There isn't the ego. So if one of us wants to pivot it, we're polite, but we pivot it. Like, I got to move on. And we're like, okay, let's move on. So season 9.
Season 9, I feel like it was just yesterday that I was talking to you about this. And I remember where I was. I was at the bottom of the stairs on the main floor. I was talking to you as I was moving from the stairs into the dining room and back. I was like, not pacing, but for some reason I was in that space, and that's where I was talking to you about this idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that well. I remember that well. And I don't know why I remember that well. I'm sure I could dig into that and figure it out, but the 9th season starts now. It's just, to me, it's, as you know, like, as a collector,
Mm-hmm.
man, as a collector, this is like the elation one feels from finding that rare artifact that they look for in the whatever it is that they collect. This is fantastic. And again, if there is a tool that exists that can literally, like a vacuum, suck up all our content and then smoothly roll things out as we ask it questions, it would be epic to have that at my fingertips. At,
Mm-hmm.
at present, I'm not aware of such tool. I know, like, there's some manual labor that can go into taking one episode, spitting it into Chat GPT, for example, and then playing with that. I get that, but I want something that's just going to come in and just suck up all 8 seasons of everything we've done, and then we can just talk to it. Hey, you know, how many times has Roland talked about whatever? or what's Chris's best moment in life over the past 8 seasons according to him. Like, just play with that, you know?
So I'll do the here's the message in the bottle. Here's to the AI that will eventually listen to this. So I think we will have an AI tool in less than 5 years that will let us do that. Because can you like remember how expensive? Remember, so if we go back through kind of like the history of tools that podcasters use to meet the challenge of podcasting. So at one point, it was fine to do podcasting where all you were doing is you were meeting, you were recording, you were doing all your production post, pre and post. You know, if you're maybe using GarageBand or what's the free one, Audacity, who knows what you're using like one of these tools to do your podcast. And then somebody kind of figured out, you know, it's kind of cool to do podcasting and to have a parallel website. So you can sort of blog or write something comprehensive. Cool. And then it moved from, so, and this is in addition to the tools that are already established. Like nothing has actually erased a specific tool yet. It was just that podcasting as a art, as a form of communication, as an expressive tool had layers added to it. It became more complex. So jumping in, many people weren't jumping in back at the beginning of just capturing audio and doing the interviews. They were jumping in and like, shit, now I got to have all these things, right? And you could say even the good mic. You and I have gone through that stage, having the good kit on your computer, having a space that's dedicated to it. Maybe you have some sound masking to keep, the noise down from the house, whatever your home studio would be. I mean, heck, other people even did other studios. Then on top of that, people start to say, okay, you know what I think I need to have? I need to have transcription. So what you're now able to do is like at the TED Talks, you could sort of just read through everything that was said, but that was really expensive. Like if you like someone that I remember, one of the ones I was looking at, like it was in the neighborhood of like per hour. It wasn't like a subscription to do it. Is like depending on the number of hours of tape you sent them, it was a person listening to it and typing the whole damn thing out. But you could send them the file on the internet. Then you started to get more popularized like video podcasts. So it wasn't the sort of in the spirit of just the audio. You actually were watching people basically doing almost like journalism videos that also had an audio feed, but then you kind of needed a dedicated space to do it. Like you had to have a pretty space. So all of a sudden you had these podcasts popping up where people were sitting around a nice table. They had the spring, each person had a cool spring arm kind of like microphone. They're sitting in a comfortable chair, black background, dark brown table, right? Like we see these layers. It's fascinating to sort of like think about this progression. I'm not even up to the inclusion of AI yet. But all those things, all those kind of things, I would say kind of happened. I would say maybe even within a 5 year spread, even a 5 year spread, you see the tick, 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 tick. And then you start to see people with portable podcasting kits kind of jump somewhere in there. You saw people then doing live kind of like streaming from outside, and that was kind of like their podcast that got jumped in there. Then you had this big all of a sudden jump where people are dropping in and doing 2 to 3 hour podcasts. It's no longer that little pocket kind of like 1 hour 45 minute kind of a thing. And all the while, you have all the background stuff like where are you posting it? It's going to go on Apple. It's going to iTunes. It's going to be a part of the Google universe. Like where you Spreaker. It's going to be a part of Anchor. Like where do you want to like actually house your audio? Remember how important that was back in the beginning? You got to get it on iTunes and the whole headaches of aligning it with Apple to get it set up so that it would pick up the stream from whatever website you were posting it on, and then figuring out the actual macro you had to have on your blogger website so that it picked like that's all gone. It's kind of all gone now. I feel in some ways it's kind of like come this weird full circle back to just the conversation, and you can do whatever the F you want and call it a podcast. So that's like, I think a 5 year stretch, maybe even less. Definitely, we've seen big changes in podcasting in the 8 years that you and I have been doing this. Look at where we've landed. Just a conversation, one app, StreamYard, dumping it onto YouTube, away we go. And we really haven't questioned the interface much anymore. But my prediction is within the next, I'll say 3 years, the ability for AI to integrate, because this is it's a new era, I would say, in the podcasting world. We're still fairly new in it. We can pay for tools that will do exactly what you want it to do. We could. I don't think either one of us are willing to invest the money in that, despite the fact we're probably each of us paying for AI tools that we really kind of like. Sorry, Gen AI. I should stop saying AI as a broad, but Gen AI, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the Gen AI tools, not regular old AI isn't good enough anymore. We need the Gen AI, the stuff that can actually listen better, think a little bit more, organize in a way that's interesting to us. But I'm guessing the next 3 years, we're going to have access to a tool that you're going to be able to do exactly that. And all you're going to have to do is give them access to the feed that we've dumped onto YouTube, which is probably still the best place to house audio and video for this particular kind of um, process. Because it really would just come down to here's the URL for this episode. Take it, parse it out for me. What do you hear? What are you hearing? And it'll be like when any sort of large language model, it'll be one part learning, one part uh, extrapolating, and then one part analysis, and then one part, here you go, here's your thing back. 3 years max. We'll be in season 12, somewhere around season 12, and we will have active AI as part of this actual conversation. I'm betting. I'm betting without much extra cost. It'll be sunk cost, as in we'll have paid for it somewhere else, but it won't be like having to pay $100 a year for a subscription model for a generative AI to listen. We'll have something that we can just kind of like, yep, there it is. Like we go online, we go live. That link will be shared with the Gen AI, and it'll be doing it in real time. That's my guess.
You did a great job of going through the timeline
It's
of our
whack, eh?
evolution right into the next, within the next 5 years. I think we have it. We have what you and I are talking about now, but it's probably really niche and expensive if we were to
Yep.
go down that road.
Mhm.
And like when I think about that, I like not Zencaster. That was one of the tools
That
I used
was
along the way.
that
Stream,
was the brand though. Like that
yes.
was the one out of Australia. I can remember chatting with the guy, talking about the product. I liked Zencaster. Zencaster was the thing that I used, I think you used before we started doing this. It could not do what we wanted, what we imagined we wanted to do with this pod. It couldn't do it.
Even with StreamYard, I really like it, but I don't want to spend the money that they're asking for like, I just think it's too expensive for me, which is hilarious because, like you said, I'm probably paying paying more monthly for all the other toys I use that I don't use that I could sink my money into StreamYard. Maybe, I don't know. I've
But
not done any analysis.
like I said to my kids the other day, I'm like, stop throwing out salad. I said, I stopped throwing it out. I said, I want to make sure I don't want to waste that money because I want to waste it somewhere else. That's what I know about me. I said, but we cannot waste money on throwing out fruits and vegetables just because we want to eat something else more. Eat the stuff that's going to go bad. So very much like this, I would agree. Like I feel like I don't want to. I feel like I don't want slash can't waste money on paying for the subscription because I know full well that money needs to be wasted somewhere else, not spent. I'll admit waste. I wasted somewhere else, but at least that feels like a better choice, a preferred.
I got you. I
Yeah.
get it. Good morning, Gary. Welcome to the
Morning,
podcast.
Gary.
Hope you had a good week at work, Gary.
I'd like to know. I'd like to know, and I feel I can do this direct question. If spending time with you and me, because Carlos has said this. Carlos has mentioned before that he has an anointed time where our content works and that he appreciates it. Will Will said the same thing when he kind of gets to catch it. A few people that have heard our stuff, I think more people, at least from conversation, seem to listen to this pod, or they kind of do it asynchronously. They kind of get to it when they need to. I am curious if you know even Rochelle, if Rochelle pops in. I know Ramona was a little bit like this. Like, do you schedule your Saturday with the idea that we're going to be here? It's like walking into the coffee shop, right? I remember my dad, early riser, me like him, early riser, weekends, and yeah, I would say weekends. Saturday morning, he would get up, he would leave, he'd be at the coffee shop, he'd be there. Thanks, brother. So yeah, so you'll get where I'm going with this. Coffee shop. So Gary says yes. He starts to think about, okay, they're gonna have the pod tomorrow. Um, and you know what? I want to pause for a sec. Like I love that. I love that. It feels like friendship. It feels like community. I like the reliance. I like this idea that someone is kind of, maybe going to bed, wrapping up their shit, and they have this last kind of moment, like, oh yeah, cool, gonna hit that pod tomorrow. I mean, we do this with TV shows. We do this with things we like. So I'm gonna take it just at face value. And again, anyone that decides to come and go live with us, I get the challenges of organizing your life around a thing. So I can only say thank you, thank you, thank you for coming and spending time. Like, it's a complex thing. You and I, it's like we will say we can't make it there, right? But that's kind of like one of the at the heart. That's a heart, like a core. I think a core belief or a core agreement that this has become practice, officially practice, as in still trying to improve upon it, but it's ingrained. We're going to be here Saturday morning. So the coffee thing, my dad, I can remember him really concerned on those Saturday and Sunday mornings. Like, he'd be coming back home around 10 a.m., the family's slowly waking up and getting shit done. And he would come in, he's like, Jimmy wasn't there this morning. And I could see the little bit of a pasty look on his face. Cause at this time, like when I started to cue in that he was doing this, my dad was like, around my age when I kind of noticed it, 50s, 60s. And you get into this second half of life thinking like someone doesn't show up without telling you they're gonna not gonna show up. You start to go, because that moment of dedication is reciprocal. I will say that if Rochelle and Gary weren't here, and at the time I could go back to other people that have been a part of this, the initial they're not here this morning, you and I would notice. We'd be like, oh, I wonder, I wonder. Happens again, you kind of go from wonder into concern, right? You're like, oh, I hope they're okay. Now, probably wouldn't wait till the next Saturday. I'm sure you'd probably text Gary or something like that. Like, you would reach out like, yo, all good? Or the worry would kind of concern would be reset because you would run into that person in your daily life. So you're like, oh, okay, cool. It was just busy. But I remember my dad would come home and he would be like, yeah, Jimmy's not there. And I'm like, dude, like, why don't you phone him? And what was interesting is that the binding agent was the coffee shop. He knew the guy's name was Jimmy. He knew Jimmy liked to read the Toronto Star. My dad liked to read the Toronto Sun. Knew that Jimmy's usually there by 5:15, 5:30 because that was his sort of schedule. But he never had Jimmy's number. Like, he had no way to actually contact Jimmy. So all he had to remain in contact with Jimmy was worry that Jimmy wasn't there. Like, that was his binding agent when he couldn't do the coffee that morning. So I'm starting to feel like, you know, after 8 seasons, we have a little bit of that kind of a community. Like, this is like a landing spot, right? It'd be awesome if there were more people that could organize their time around coming here and listening to a conversation and connecting. Um, but at the heart of it, I deeply appreciate anybody else that's willing to kind of get up and come and hang with us and just listen to us. Like Karen said, like, do you plan out ahead of time? No, we just kind of flow into the conversation. A little bit of philosophy, a little bit of parenting, a little bit of dad, a little bit of dude, a little bit of education. I do have a question for you at some point. But go ahead. No, I can pivot back to it. It was just something, it was one thing. Again,
Drop it now.
have you at any point considered that you wanted to change the name of the podcast?
No.
Okay.
You?
I don't know. It's funny how it occurred to me. And as I'm laying out the different pieces, like what it is, what it's become, I think probably I think what has happened is that the word that we picked, and I wish I could nail down our origin story for the name of that. I don't even know how the hell we came up with that. I know I have a strong suspicion, recollection that the name of the pod was, we were trying to be a little bit cheeky as far as education, the decode ed, but I think we're also the sort of pulling things apart, like in kind of understanding it. I think that was also part of the theme. Um, and but I think it was when we started, I don't think we were as intentionally bringing our family, our dads, our husband, like being a husband. Like I don't think we were as intentional in season one. That'd be a great thing to ask the AI. At what point did it start to include other topics as well as education? Like I think our on ramp to this new wild space was, okay, we know education, let's start feeding the education kind of algorithm. And then one of us started talking about dads. Okay, now we're into the dad space. And then we started to talk about sort of personal stuff. Okay, now we're bringing the personals. Because in many ways, this predates Book Club for Men, but I think this space was setting groundwork for that being a possibility, because we needed to shift from thinking of ourselves as just teachers to philosophers, bigger thinkers. And then all of a sudden, we were in the space of talking about, stuff about masculinity, things about being a dad, things about being a dude here. And then I think that in parcel allowed, well, you to start to consider, well, I I want to have I want to sort of have a thing that's about me, dad, dude, Roland. What about a book club? Like there's a very now, in retrospect, 2020, it seems clear. So I think the decoded now just becomes the how do we move from mystery to understanding? How do we and what are the tools that we need in order to do that? And how does it feel when we look directly at something that previously we just saw as a thing, but now we've kind of pulled it apart and we can actually see the componentry of it? It becomes a little bit more like that's the image I have in my head. And it could be any topic, but it's going to be topics from where we are. So right now, you and I still are educators. I wonder if after retirement, if we'll even bother talking about education anymore. I suspect, I suspect no. Like there'll be something else to kind of be, because if all we're doing is taking what we do in the week for the most part and bringing it to the weekend and talking about it, I'm imagining you and I are going to do some interesting things when we're no longer, when our deep work time is not consumed by being, in public education, doing other things. Those things will just be the artifacts that we bring. So it was less about changing the name. I think my personal understanding, my deeper understanding of picking the word, I'm glad that it still works, because considering the pivot that you and I have taken with this actual podcast, I like that we have a title that is flexible, right? That is flexible. So,
I also like the idea at this present time in my life of keeping a name that, even if it didn't fit, I don't care. That's the name we chose. Like even our logo with the binary, the zeros and the ones. Sometimes I look at it and I'm like, oh, but I'm like, I don't care. I'm in I'm in the phase where it's, if is it a phase? I don't know. I don't know what this is, but it's like, even if it didn't fit anymore, I think that's even awesomer. Decode a podcast? What does that have anything to do with what you guys do? I'm like, I don't know anymore. That's what we are, the Decoded Podcast. That's what we do. Yeah, it doesn't fit. Okay. Like, that's where, man, I'm so like, I'm in this, it's feeling good right now, whatever this space is. It's feeling good. Like, I even saw it roll out at work this week. Things are happening and people are like, "What are you gonna do?" I'm like, "Nothing." And they're like, "What do you mean nothing?" And I'm like, I kind of look at my watch. I'm like, do we have time to have this conversation? Because I'm about to go really effing deep, and you're gonna walk away and you're gonna be like, I just wasted my time. It's like, here's my role. This is what I do, and I care about what I do. But that care has that care has a limit, and the limit is that when I'm giving and someone's not taking, then I'm moving on to the next person who might take a little bit more of what I give. Because what I'm giving is part of the role that I'm in to help people. And there are some people that don't want it or don't know that they need it, or they're so hardened that my 10 minutes with them is like, it's that 10 minutes isn't going to do anything positive at that time. So I'm like, I'm not going to be like, "Oh, I need to give 30 and no, done, done. I got to go to the next thing." And I just feel like I'm comfortable with that perspective at the moment. So, all that to say, even if you and I decided right now, oh my God, the Title Decoder podcast doesn't fit anymore with what we do, I don't care. That's what we are. Now, I'm open to having a conversation with you about that. But at this moment, it's like, that's fine that it doesn't fit. Where we started doesn't fit with where we are. That's that's even better for me because there's a great story there. I like that dissonance at this moment. I feel the way I'm talking, thinking right now is you. So, like, spending this much time with you, there are things from you that have rubbed off on me. I feel like I'm talking like you right now. Just like I laughed so hard one day this week. I was talking to a kid, and the kid said to me, "You sound like Chat GPT." And I said, "That's wicked." And he was like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "I've learned from that tool. I like some of the way that that tool produces information. I like that my vocabulary has grown a little bit because of that tool." Then they're looking at me like, "What the F are you talking about, Mr. C?" I'm like, "Well, let me tell you some of the things I use it for. And then let me tell you that I like some of the way it produces information. And so I've adopted speaking and thinking that way." And then I'm like, "What are you doing on Chat GPT that you tell me I sound like it? Tell me what you're doing. Are you using it right? Go right into teacher mode. How are you using it? Are you being deliberate and intentional and ethical?"
Mhm.
And there's the come on, Mr. C, right? Like, I'm 15. What do you think I'm doing? And I'm like, okay, that's a whole other conversation. But I'm just, bro, I'm feeling this. I'm feeling I've adopted a lot, becoming your friend, listening to you, becoming a little bit more comfortable with dissonance, conflict, and not becoming comfortable with it in a way that it's like accepting of what it is, but accepting of like the benefits that can come from those terms. Because when you say the word conflict to somebody, they never okay, maybe not never, most people don't think positive when you use the word conflict. They think negative right away. And it's like, no, let's look at this for a minute. Yes, conflict can be a negative experience, can also be a positive experience if you look at what is going on in that moment. Why is there conflict? Why is it there? Right? And then if we want harmony, what does that look like? If it always looks like me bowing down to everything you tell me to do and how it's going to be done, in my mind, that's not always harmonious. That's like causes me anxiety and issues with, well, why are you the keeper of the keys? Like,
Mhm.
what's going on in this situation? That causes more negative conflict for me than positive conflict for me. But when I say to you, hey, this is a problem. The way we're operating here, it doesn't work. Because if we're going to do this, then what's the purpose of this?
Hmm.
And this week, the first day of school, I got a story. I got to jump into this. First day of school.
Do it.
So one of the extracurriculars that I do at my school involves morning announcements. And the last person that did morning announcements did them for 19 years. So
Woo.
yeah. So he knew the ins and outs of it. He just had a system. And then last year when I found out he was retiring, we're sitting there, he goes, "Who's going to take over morning announcements?" I'm like, "I'll do it." I'm like, "I've been watching you do it." I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying I feel like I need to take something on that's big in this building. I'd like to participate. I'd like to give back that way. He's like, "Okay." So he started teaching me whatever. The first day of school, I'm in my assigned room and I'm listening to the morning announcements and I'm feeling a little bit of pride because it's like now they're reading them and I'm like, "Oh, I put that together and I put it in the order or whatever, blah, 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 blah." We get to the end. I'm like, "Okay, that's the last one." And then there's an additional announcement. And I'm like, "Is this a joke? I didn't put that announcement in there. And nobody emailed me with that announcement.
Hmm.
So why is it being announced?" And it wasn't like you know how some announcements like, "Oh, admin threw that in there," which they can.
Of
They're
course.
running the building, right? Um, or in a real emergency thing, but that doesn't come from us menial teachers. It comes from people in positions of authority that require things to happen. So I'm like, so I go to the person who supervises the announcements as they're happening, and I said, "We got a problem." And it was like, and I could tell right away. I, Seeing the look on her face, she was not interested in what was about to happen because I think she felt there was conflict. And I think there was because I was kind of like, I was irritated. The first day of school, we already have people making executive decisions. We got people sneaking in announcements. We got people following directions from someone that they're not supposed to be following directions from. Like, there's layers here, and I'm thinking it's the first day of school. I have to deal with this today. If I don't deal with this now, this is going to get out of control and we're going to have a big problem. And I'm kind of the keeper of the keys. The principal knows I'm doing this. The vice principal responsible for announcements knows I'm the guy now to collect these things and to deal with them. So I say to the person, "We have a problem." "Well, what's wrong?" "Well, so and so made this announcement and that never came through me. So why did that person make the announcement?" "Oh, well, the oh wells and I'm like, "Oh, I can see what's happening here. This person's totally uncomfortable with the conversation we're about to have because I'm dropping the hammer." And I think she's like, "Oh, he's dropping the hammer." So then I say this. I'm like, "Okay." I said, we can't do this." I'm like, "It's the first day of school and this is happening already." That is like, people are doing this because they know that the person who did it for 19 years is gone. The new person doesn't know what's going on. But in that moment, I felt John's ghost watching over me like, "I'm proud of you, Roland. This is the conflict you need to enter into to maintain sanity around this program."
Hmm.
So I talked to the person who supervises. They're looking at me like, "Oh God, what's going to happen?" They say they'll talk to the students, and then they tell me what happened. As the kids reading the announcements pulls out a piece of paper from their pocket and reads something that somebody gave them to read. Probably the coach of the team that didn't go through me. Fine. So then I call the person in charge of the student activities council, and I tell her, and I know her well, and I could sense conflict. So I said, "Look, I'm not you got to speak up right now. Like, am I coming off over the edge?" She's like, "I've had a rough morning. It's hitting the fan left, right, and center." I'm like, "I'm sorry that you have to experience that. And I'm sorry you didn't know how this plays out, even though I sent an email to the entire staff of how this operates." Nobody read the email because everybody's breaking all the rules. And they're like, "Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know. I'm like, you didn't read the email.
Mm-hmm.
And then I send an email to the kids who do the announcements and to all the adults in charge, introducing myself, letting them know what my role is with morning announcements, and very clearly saying and highlighting in the email, do not read anything that doesn't come from me. And I didn't even preface it or whatever with admin this, admin that. Don't read anything that you don't get from me in an email for that morning. Now, if they do, then I'll inquire and they'll be like, Mr. So and so came in, the principal, vice principal, and they were like, you must read this. Awesome. 2 thumbs up. You're following you're following the lead of the people who run the building. I got no issue with that. But Clough walks in the room and says, I need you to read this for my club today, and you do it. No, we don't do that here. You tell them that you direct them to an adult or you direct them to me. So, conflict. I was like, oh, well, this sucks now that I need to take 15 minutes out of my life to deal with a situation that I did everything I could to avoid happening. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to jump in, and nobody was comfortable with it. And I was walking around just dropping the word no like it was candy. And I'm like, I don't care if you don't like it. At one point, I said to one person, if this is how we're going to do this, I'm out. There's no reason to have me. Right. And she was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, maybe we can create a better system. Go nuts. Until you create the better system and until somebody tells me they don't need this extracurricular anymore, this is what I'm doing. And they're just like, I'm like, I'm out. That's the thing. I'm not going to hang on to these things for the sake of holding on to them. If you want
Yeah.
chaos with morning announcements, you can have chaos with morning announcements. Until that's decided by somebody above me, I'm the sheriff in the town. That's what John called me, and I'm holding on to that. I'm the sheriff in the town. And just icing on the cake, yesterday, we didn't have announcements yesterday. We're only supposed to have them Tuesdays and Thursdays, and for this week, an exception was made by the vice principal. We're going to do them Wednesday and Thursday. So I'm like, okay. I walk into room 208, and one of the teachers says to me, oh, I was just looking for you. I need an announcement made. I said, well, first of all, it's Friday. There are no announcements. Second of all, if you got to get it to me before 8 p.m. the night before, or it's not getting announced. And he's just looking at me like all of a sudden he's like, oh, wow, you're really coming at me. I'm not coming at you. You got the balls to tell me minutes before morning announcements you want an announcement made? No, no, right? And then they're like, oh my God, what's wrong with Roland? No, that's not how it works. The email's been sent. I wait until like 9 p.m., 9:30, okay, right before I go to bed. Then I hit send and I send the email to all the people that need to see what's happening in the announcements. So if you come
Mm-hmm.
to me at 7:57 a.m., I need an announcement made. No, I'm not gonna authorize that. Now, if the announcement's made and then I inquire and they're like, I talked to the VP and he said, yeah, yeah, get it in. Okay. Okay. What am I going to do? He's the VP. He makes those decisions. I don't. But until that happens, if this keeps happening, like I'm like going to go to somebody and say, I'm out. You can find another sheriff. Here's the badge. Doesn't mean anything because nobody gives a shit. Everybody does what they want. I got no problem doing that. And that's where I'm at, and I feel really fucking good about it. I feel free. I feel like I can just live my life and be who I am. And that's strange to say for a person in the second half of their life. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I'm new at this. I'm a rookie at second half of life, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, there's my little thing about conflict, chaos. Bring it on, man. Because the longer I avoid what it is I need to do, the more stress it puts on me. I got enough on me. I don't need any more. I don't want any more. I'm like working day to day to try to move those not so good feelings away. Move them away. Conflict. I sound like ChatGPT. You've rubbed off on me. I don't believe I'm being mean spirited. I just believe, what are we doing here?
Mhm.
Right? Like, what are we doing? What's the purpose of this? You need this, you need that. A friend to all is a friend to none. If I say yes to everybody, they're not going to think, oh, what a nice cooperative person. They're going to be like, the guy, you can walk all over him. He has no standard. He just does whatever you tell him to do. Well, sometimes that may be the case, but most of the time, no, there's a reason why I'm doing something. And I did mess up twice this week. So somebody came to me and they're like, oh my God, I sent you an email. It didn't get read. I'm like, I'm really sorry. I missed it. That's on me. I'm sorry. And then another person came to me and they're like, hey, I thought I sent you an email, but maybe there was something wrong with my phone. And he's got a really cool, weird last name. I'm like, how do you spell your last name? He's like telling me, I put it in the computer. There it pops up. I'm like, oh my God, dude, you did email me. And for whatever reason, I didn't see it because I've now become like, I can see the announcements. Because as I get the emails, now I'm doing it a different way. I'm populating them in a different way so I don't miss anything or try not to. So when the announcements are playing, I see them in my head. I know the exact order. It's really friggin' weird. And as they're happening, I'm like, okay, yep. Oh, this is what's coming next. Oh, the kids did a good job of reading that. Oh, the kids fumbled that one. Ha ha ha. You know, and I said to the guy, I don't remember anything about golf. I don't know what happened. And then, anyway, long story short, call me Bob, Frank, whatever. Let me be honest with you.
Fossil.
I got no problem saying I dropped the ball. And I feel really bad because they only had 2 days to announce whatever club or team. So I just say I'm sorry. There's nothing else I can do.
Mhm.
Gary says this is why I like this podcast, a blend of Ed and real life through a lens of real individuals. There it is, Gary. Now watch Gary become my VP and he be in charge of announcements. And that'll be a fun one, right? Because I'll talk about it on the podcast, an hour after I'm in his office saying, what the H is going on here, Gary? Who's running this show?
Mhm.
Or Gary's calling me and saying, you got to talk to people in a different way. I'm like, cheers, Gary. We'll talk about it on the podcast Saturday morning.
Yeah, podcast is professional development. I think we're kind of over that conflict of interest. There was a meme that, not a meme, a video that came through my feed. I think it was sort of like I got to send it to Chids and then I forgot to send it, something distracted. But it was a comedian just talking about kind of being a dad and saying no. And I get it. Just as you're sharing this story, like the question of who's in charge here has usually if you make it to the rhetorical state like that, like you're sort of shouting at the universe, then you are no longer the one in charge. Like if you actually make it to that state where you're kind of like, then you've actually lost control. You're no longer leading, right? It's just you are sort of at the mercy of the energy of a bad decision or somebody else's whim. I think the essence of this is setting the boundary and being clear about what traversing that boundary is and being okay with the consequence of you stepping outside that box. And I think that type of clarity takes a while to refine. I think it takes a while to recognize that we are not as fragile as we kind of project we might be, as in by saying no, like, oh my gosh, to watch the catastrophic thinking that a no will actually lead to something worse. Um, I like that. I also like this element that you're introducing that a no, because it doesn't align with your timeline, your ethic, your sort of like set of organizational tools, saying this is my version of this. If that's not the version you want, that's cool, but that also means that I leave. If you dispense with the tool, then I dispense with myself. I am okay with excusing myself from this moment. Um, and to not sort of think like you have to off the jump adjust. Like when we talk about flexibility, I think flexibility often gets conflated with diffusion and degradation, as in the way that you become more flexible is if you give something up or you disagree with yourself. I think flexibility sometimes comes over time, and unless there's like harm or danger in the decisions and the leadership, I sort of sometimes ascribe to this idea of rigid things rubbing against other rigid things eventually coexist because they figure out just by that physical interaction what needs to be adjusted. But you need the stress of those two things rubbing against each other for a little bit amount of time. So, for example, the actual adjustment of your process could come because a superior says change, or it could just be let's stay in this conflict for a little bit. Let's stay in conflict for a little bit and just understand that the way that we're operating actually is in conflict. It's not changing the quality of the product, but our two approaches haven't quite found the right nesting yet. But let's keep working on this. Let's just stay in this kind of like either bump, like the idea of bumping heads, or like rubbing up against someone you disagree with. All these kind of like almost geographical terms eventually result in new landforms if I'm deep digging into geography. But just that energy of staying in conflict can be very useful. Now, you don't have to, but I think when we say we're in conflict, we can trade out to be a little bit more euphemistic word. But I do think we could say in opposition, whatever it means that you have two differences, you have differences of opinion, approaches, tactics, tools, but you choose because you're a professional to stay working on this thing because the potential for something cool to come out on the other side is still there, as opposed to this is a cool thing, this is a cool thing. When we put the two things together, they don't seem that cool. Well, sometimes they need to kind of be in each other's sphere for a little bit. And as long as there's no danger or damage or harm or hurt or the bad stuff that comes out, it's okay for those things to be rubbing against each other. I do fundamentally say that. And I think I've come to understand that by you sort of identifying that you're okay with the conflict. And I've said to you, my actual phrase is, I've never actually said I'm okay with conflict, though I am. I say I'm okay with chaos. So I'm in a slightly different sphere here. This I say as a natural disposition or position, I guess, in doing jobs where everyone really deeply believes in the work that they do. It creates this. It's going to. The chaos is what is the energy that results from us existing in this relationship. So there's a second layer to conflict. So you choose to be here. The process of rubbing against each other creates chaos. And then you have consequence. What is the thing that actually comes out of this state, this electrical state of like, what the F is going on? Yet somehow you're still producing a thing. I would sort of parallel that a little bit with creative process. Let's this idea of being creative, and the people have posted up more than enough times, kind of cheekily saying, the whole creative process. You know, I can't do this. Okay, I'm going to do this. Okay, the thing that I'm doing is absolute shit. Okay, this shit thing that I'm doing makes me feel terrible, and then it's like I'm an effing loser because it's not turning out the way I want it, and then it's like, oh, this is interesting. So it's almost like a pivot that just by sticking with the process, something interesting, not always, can come out at the other end. And then the final step is like, okay, cool, I'm an artist. But there's a creative arc there that means that I hope that whether you choose or don't choose to be in conflict, we recognize it and we can speak directly to it. And then once we're in it, we feel like we have a choice to stay, to say whether or not we're going to stay. And if we choose to stay, sometimes we can't choose because someone above us will say, no, you got to keep doing this job. That we understand the chaos that comes from this. And there's always collateral things that we don't expect that's going to happen. But there is a consequence. Something will happen as a result of that. Could be good, could be bad. I really like how dynamic, that's a very dynamic, um, and I find for me energizing way to lens my day, because I sort of think to myself, there are things that are stable. I do need stability in my job. I do. I think that the conflict helps us to kind of geotag or at least notice, locate where those stable places are, the places of stability that need some change, and how much space is actually sometimes on that island for you to kind of like get into that space. I like all that kind of stuff. I'm good with the chaos. I enjoy the chaos. So this is good. I am curious about your whole system. Like, how do the actual announcements come to you? Like, how do you know the list of announcements?
There's a general email that is used at my school for when teachers or staff require something to be announced or something to be projected on the televisions in the school. Like it's called Benedict News. So
Mm,
if you want something on the announcements, you want something on the sign outside or the TVs inside, you email Benedict News and you tell them what it is that you're looking for, what you want. And then there's different individuals who do different things. So my job, if somebody says, "Hey, can this please be announced on Tuesday morning?" They give me the date, I get it, and then I edit or revise it so that it fits the mold that we've told the school this is the mold, make it fit. And then I compile them and then um, I email them at a certain time to the students that read the announcements and to the adults that want to receive this email about what's being announced.
So
Does that
do you have to do editing so that, like, do
I
you have
do
to
edit.
post it? Do you post it? Are you the one that has to post it to the slide deck or whatever? Like
Oh,
the
it's not
things
a
that are on the
slide
monitor?
deck. It's just literally the students either print the email I've sent out or read it from their phone or a Chromebook.
What about the monitor stuff though? How does it get
I
onto the
have no
monitors?
idea who does that job.
How do they get the messages that need to be on the monitor? Are you in control of that? As in you're
No, no.
sending that?
That's so that one email called Benedict News,
Yeah,
when you email it telling Benedict News what you want, there are
yeah.
different people who receive that email. So there's like six
Got
of
you.
us who get that email.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, for our school, we have a Google form and it's right on our attendance management system. So we click on that, it brings up a Google form and it says, who are you? What's the group you're representing? What's your email address? What's your message? How many days do you want it read?
So
Then
who
you can
gets
tick.
that?
So that the students that are doing the announcements have access to view only on the Google Sheet that it spits out on.
Okay.
And then I believe our attendance secretary prints out. I don't know how she actually does it. Maybe it's just a cut. She'll copy paste them just into a document, and those get just posted on a. There's a bulletin board right by the attendance office, so like a paper copy, so people can read them.
Nice.
They're not actually put up on the monitors, which would be that's interesting to me, and they're not emailed out to. I've asked this a couple times. So again, when I was in the community classroom, I asked, is there a way for me, because the teachers don't have the view only of the spreadsheet, but I've asked it, I said that would be really useful for me to be able to have the digital view only of the spreadsheet throughout the year. And I mean, there's no privacy issue there because it's already posted publicly. So, but they haven't made it happen, and I forget why. But that would be useful, even to be able to scroll back through all the announcements, because it literally is just like an Excel spreadsheet, right? You just buy the date, up, all the way back. You can also on there attach an audio announcement. So if you're the coach and you really want to, kind of ham it up a little bit, I think there's like a 2 minute limit or 3 minute limit on it. Make sure it's under that, and they'll play it over the announcements. Some people. So when I was doing like the spoken word stuff, I would find I would have stuff that I would just let them announce, but sometimes I did a little bit of production on it to make it sound a little bit more intriguing, provocative.
Mm,
So yeah, that's our system.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I adopted what was there, and If people want to change it, then I guess they'll enter into conversations around how to do that. I'm so new at it that I'm just I'm in the stage of, here are the instructions, follow the instructions. That's where I'm at. It's funny. That's where I'm at with the morning announcements. But with my
Hmm.
work as a monitor, I'm entering into the like more innovative phase. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Um,
I get that.
yeah, like I'm learning more to be in the gray with that than I was last year with the black and white. So that's cool. This week I've already been tested a few times with I call them tests. Like it's not somebody testing me, it's the universe kind of saying, here's the situation, how are you going to deal with it? And it's been really cool with my new knowledge to filter through certain things. Um, yeah, like it's really cool. And I found myself a couple of times this week in situations where I kind of chuckle in the middle of it because I think, oh, I know what Roland last year would have done, right? And I see the inefficiencies now. I see the blind, I call it blind loyalty, where you just, oh, that's the rule. I must follow the rule, when really there's other things that need to be considered before you follow that rule. I got a
Hmm.
good one. I got a good one that I was laughing. I was laughing, and people were like, what, are you reading something funny? I'm like, no, it's just so funny, the situation. I got an email from a teacher saying, I'm going to use your name. I got an email from a teacher saying, hey, um, I see here that there's an IEP for Chris Clough in the IEP software, but in Aspen, that's like our organizational software, it's not listed that this student has an IEP. Can you tell me what's going on? I was like, sure. So, and it falls under my alpha. And even I'm like, that kid's not on my list. So something's up, because I thought my list was pretty accurate. But now there's this kid that I know nothing about. Nobody's mentioned the kid except this teacher's like, hey, this kid's name is on in the IEP system, but not in the main system. And the name should be in both if they have an IEP. So I'm like, So I look online. I'm like, yeah, well, clearly there's an IEP here, and it was created a few years ago. I'm like, okay, old school. I got to go see the OSR. Like, I need to dig a layer deeper. So go get the OSR, look through it, and this is where I laugh, because there's a document in the OSR that says that this student's IEP has been demitted. They don't have an
Hmm.
IEP anymore, and there's documentation signed by the last principal saying that this IEP ended January 30th, 2025. So I'm like, okay, this is cool. So I'm really happy, because I'm like, I didn't drop the ball. This kid shouldn't have an IEP anymore. That's why in the big system, there's no indication, because somebody went in there and click the off button, no IEP, but somehow, some way, the IEP still lives in the IEP software, and we have new software. So everything from the old got sucked into the new, and this person still has an IEP there. And teachers are like, hey, their name's popping up. What do I do? So I emailed that teacher and CC'd the other three teachers and said, ignore it. This person's not supposed to have one. I have no idea how to take it out of the system yet. It's one of the questions for the workshop I'm going to this week. How do you demit an IEP? Because that one should be out. And then I have a family that wanted the IEP. At the end of June, we were talking. They're like, we don't want the IEP anymore. I'm like, okay. But we couldn't get the paperwork done in time. So I did not touch anything in a computer, because I didn't actually have a document allowing me to do that. So this year we roll into the new school year. We've got this new software, and we have a new monitor for that alpha. And when I was going through the alpha with her, I'm like, oh, this kid, do not do anything with that IEP, because that will be demitted in the next week or whatever. The dad just has to sign the paper. So if he doesn't sign the paper and we get to a point where you have to process it, do that later, because this guy is like, he doesn't want this. And he told me in June, we're done with this. And I was like, no problem. We just need you to sign a paper. Um, but it's like all these things are happening. So I chuckled, because I think the Roland from last year maybe wouldn't have thought about the OSR. It would just been like, oh shoot, if the person's in the IEP system, then I should go into the bigger system, click everything back on. And I wouldn't have been like, well, why is it off? Why is it this? Why is it that? But this year I was like, I need to dig. I need to go through the paper and see what's going on here. Because the teacher also had a concern about, in the main system, it said that there was a health concern. So the teacher was like, do we know what the health concern is? And that's when I was like, I have no notes on this kid. This kid was not part of transition meetings. If they were, someone left their name out, but that's a pretty big thing to leave out. So when I went through the OSR, I was like, there's nothing in here that talks about health concern. Nothing, no indication. So I'm like, I don't know what that's about. Then I said to the teacher, this is a good reason to call home. You might want to call the parents, figure out, hey, this is what I see. You want to fill me in? Because I'd like to know how to support your child if there's whatever the health concern is. They were like, well, can't you do that? And I'm like, this student doesn't have an IEP. So why would I call home and be like, hey, I'm Roland. I'm a special education teacher. And I ask all these questions, but your kid isn't in special education? Like I said, that doesn't make any sense. Why would I do that? It's not my role. It's not my lane. So I laughed at that too. Teacher's like, well, you do it. It's not my job. I'm not doing that. I chuckled a lot this week. It balanced out my crying. The two they ended up balancing each other, because there were moments where I was like, why does this have to be so hard sometimes?
Mm-hmm.
Why do we have a new software that's getting in the way of my workflow? And how come I'm not getting any direction on what to put in this software? I go through some of that and I'm like, just do your job. And then I just do my best to do what I was trained to do until I'm given direction.
Yeah. Hmm.
Anyway, I'm glad the first week's over. I'm glad the first week's over. We got many more weeks to continue to grow and get better and to help people.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of time, lots of weeks.
Yeah, I have this it's a new feeling. Sorry, it's a new feeling for me to notice, not a new feeling. I'm hopeful. I have this kind of like this hope. Um
I appreciate you using that word, because you've used that word in different ways over the years.
I think it's been hope. I think the word it's kind of like doo, 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 like it's kind of flashing, kind of glowing. I think part of it is I would have as a constructivist mindset, like teacher, I believe that we only get what we build. So and we only build what we have the capacity to do with the skills that we have. I can remember back to teachers college, and one of my profs was like a constructivist, was a braggart. Like he would just often say, like, he would literally give zero direction apart from, all right, all of you need to build a unit plan, that includes hospitality, so culinary, woodworking, and cosmetology. Go. And we literally had to build that from scratch. Did not tell us, this was very early, like in my one of my, I think it was, I forget what the actual course was, but it had to do with course construction. Like that's literally what it was. Um, and we were all tradespeople, right? It was all tradespeople. That was the strand, the cohort that came through. We were all tech teachers, and in the class there was electricians, plumbers, uh, mechanics, culinary, cosmetology people, all these places that have trade certifications. That's what our cohort was. So none of us, I mean, a few of us had gone to formal school. Some of us learned the trade directly from another professional. So in like day two, where this guy gives us our project and says it's basically a project you're going to work on over the next 2 weeks, he assigned us, and this is what you're going to do. And we were sitting there like, what the hell? What the hell? But it gave me an appreciation of um, how important it is to think deeply about lesson design. This happened because of drowning. So because of drowning in a task. But the where I landed was this idea that, with planning and collaboration, shared load, resource management, time management, like you can actually get to something. Was our unit great? No, but it built foundational understanding of how to do that and how to then go from unit design, like course and program design, into the actual lessons that are the small stitches to get a kid through the actual material, right? So that being my mindset in education, when people talk about hope, I don't have a constructivist way to kind of think about that, as in how do you build hope? And I think that's been my conflict in the past, because people wanted to make it like a happenstance thing that comes from magical kind of thinking, like, and to sort of like tether yourself to it. This was a COVID conversation, right? Like this idea of thinking of being hopeful was a COVID conversation. But I think where we came through COVID, I started to understand elemental parts of hope. And maybe you remember this moment too. The moment people online started to challenge the common thinking. So the moment that I saw thought leaders starting to talk about how to actually navigate teaching kids virtually, being online, like where we started to talk about the positive side of teaching virtually, when I reflect back on it, it was really incredible, because people were for the most part, in my circles, incredible pain, disillusionment, fear, anxiety. Like everyone was having, like, just exposing this rawness and this brokenness. And then you started to have people saying these little glimmers: if you do this, it kind of works. If you do this, it kind of works. And it was answering questions that nobody was comfortable to ask, which was, how do I do my job better while we're in the middle of this COVID moment? And I think now, looking back on it, those are the Lego pieces of hope. But what it's contingent on is some sort of a catalytic moment, like somebody to say, I'm going to kind of put my thinking out there, and I'm going to take a chance on what could happen. And I think that's one of the pieces of hope, is that the in order to see it, in order to make it manifest it, that there has to be somebody that kind of tosses something into that water to disrupt the thinking. And I, thinking back, really appreciate, despite the fact that, I was still identifying them as thought leaders, individuals that were brave enough to say, some of them were just talking about it as new pedagogy, like how do we teach virtually? Others would say, here's my way of managing teaching while COVID. They were that flat out. And I think it was those people saying that gave me hope, because they didn't euphemize it. They said, I'm gonna do my job. This is how I'm gonna do it, COVID notwithstanding, or COVID as a part of it. This is what it looks like. This is the reality. And it's a funny parallel to make, that you need reality in order to have hope. But I think that's what it is. And again, I can't tie this together into a really nice, neat, nugget pointed kind of TED talk. But I feel incredibly grounded in reality right now, coming out of the community classroom. The tools that I'm having to use are very practical. My methods for making relationships tactical, learned, compassionate, but they're very, like, I can speak exactly to the why that I'm doing the things that I'm doing. And that collective bundle of tools, I think, it allows me to imagine that I can create change, and that feels hopeful. Like it's a functional, magical way of thinking. I don't. Let's come back to it. We'll come back to it and see. Because part of the thing too is that what I'm wondering right now is if there's a temporal nature to the hope, is in I can feel really hopeful in September and not hopeful at all in November. Or is it something that as you nurture it, you actually find a state of being to remain there? Can I remain hopeful if I continue to use the tools that I have, which ultimately will change my identity? They'll start to kind of like impact me. I'll change my thinking, my sort of like my connecting. It does. It's like taking vitamins, right? Slow, long process. Maybe that's a good inquiry challenge of practice is that through specific steps can I maintain this hope, this sense of hope, this practical sense of I can create change throughout the whole like how long to put a time on it might be problematic because really I think there's an ethereal nature to hope still. Like, do you put a best before date on it? I don't know, but maybe this is what I'm feeling. And I have in the past. Hope has been way too magical of thinking for me. I don't know if I need the magic for it to feel good. I don't know if I need that magical thinking to make it seem like, finding $5 in your pocket. Can it just feel good because the work is good, because my steps are good, because my connections are good? Challenge of practice. I'll frame it up a little bit better, but it actually occurred to me. I'm like, I think I am thinking about hope in a different way.
I like it. I like how you frame it. I like how it's working for you.
Mm-hmm.
To be continued, right?
GBC. A little nugget. I got my new school shoes yesterday, which makes
Oh,
me happy.
nice.
Yeah, I got a new pair of school shoes.
That's awesome. I've been meaning. I wanted to get a new pair of school shoes. Didn't happen.
Do you ever use websites to buy your shoes? Or you got to go try them on.
No, I use websites. It's funny you mentioned that because I checked out a couple of websites and I didn't see anything that as I was looking for my new shoes, I didn't see anything that appealed to me.
Do you have a brand that you prefer?
No, my old shoes that I still wear are Doc Martens that are just simple black.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like I can't find them anymore. They're just very simple.
Mm-hmm.
They're like low profile because sometimes Doc Martens can have a high sole. They're not like that. I love them,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't find them. I'd like to also get I don't have to have a pair like that, but I'm also looking at like all black casual type shoes. I'm looking. I've seen a couple of things, but I've not pulled the trigger. Um, yeah, trying to figure that out. I've been slow with it, I guess,
Mm.
but I don't care. Like I'm okay. I got shoes. They're
Yeah,
clean. I wear them, but I wanted a new pair of footwear for work. Haven't done it yet. I hope to though.
I notice usually after a year, definitely after 2 years wearing them, like wearing them in the school on the hard floors, they just feel like it's. I don't feel it in the foot. I feel it in my back. My back is more tired. I think from the impacts, because part of it is like I don't walk slow through the school. So if you're constantly moving at like hustle pace, getting in your 10K steps each day just because you're going upstairs, downstairs, appearing in places that students you need to see frequent. Like, so I'm on the move a lot. After 2 years, my running shoes are just like I need to replace them, so I'll donate. What I've started to do now is I donate them to the school. I'm like,
Hmm.
here, I give them to the phys ed department. So students that are now, you got to be a 10 and a half, but some of those students are rolling in. But if they have shoes for kids, I think I've donated 6 pairs to,
Awesome.
yeah. to I started when I was up at KHS. I did that, and I've continued to do it. Actually, in this case, I left a pair, two different pairs left behind in the community classroom for the teacher. I said, there's two pairs there. You may find that you need them for the kids one day, or they, um, they they damage their clothes or something, and it's going to be a half an hour before the parents can come and bring something back to help them out. So yeah.
I love that. It reminds me of a teacher that I worked with many years ago, a male teacher, rough around the edges is probably what people would say about this individual. And the one day um, I was walking into the building with this teacher
Hmm.
and he seemed uncomfortable. I was like, "What's your problem, dude? Like, you're acting weird." He's like, "Oh, nothing, nothing." And then I noticed he was holding in the arm that wasn't close to me, it was on the other side of his body. He was holding a bag and there were a pair of shoes in it. And so I inquired. I'm like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Oh, it's nothing." I'm like, "What, you get new sneakers? Like I'm like, kind of, I guess I was bugging him about it. It turns out he had purchased a new pair of shoes for one of the students in his class that needed something like that. And he didn't just go to Walmart and buy a pair of size nines, right? Like he got this kid some really nice sneakers. And I was like, "Why are you acting weird?" He's like, "Well, nobody needs to know I'm doing this." I'm like, "Well, bro, I'm not going to advertise it on social media, but I think that's pretty awesome. Like, I know you care about your kids, but that's like next level care to go out and get an expensive pair of shoes that not only will serve their purpose as new sneakers, but also provide some social clout." It's almost like this teacher was like not only giving the kid something physical, but also adding to the kid's social status, if you will. And I looked at that teacher differently from that point on because I knew that he cared, but I thought he cared. I didn't know his care was that there was that much depth. It's hard to explain because to a normal person, they'd be like, "Oh, what's the big deal? A teacher bought a kid shoes. It's a big deal to get a kid, a pair of Jordan running shoes. Like
Hmm.
you don't have to do that." But this teacher was like, "That's what this kid needs." And I was like, "Oh my God, okay." The shoes, man. Shoes can I have a thing for shoes. I like shoes. But it's like it hasn't materialized into anything. It's just when I see somebody dressed up or whatever, I look at their shoes. And I don't know what it is about the shoes, but it's the shoes.
Hmm.
And then there's the dad shoes, right? Which is also hits in the feels, the dad shoes. Because you and I have talked about this. My dad, I don't remember my dad ever cutting the grass. So I when I think pretty hard about this, I don't think I ever saw my father wear sneakers. Ever. Like I don't think in all my life, when I think about my father, I do not remember my father ever having running shoes. And I'm sure he must have, but I just don't. It doesn't compute, doesn't work, doesn't fit. But there were times that I think my dad may have had like simple athletic loafers maybe or something, but the New Balance, the white New Balance, that wasn't my dad. And actually last night both of my kids took a strip off me. We went out for dinner and my youngest looks over at me, he looks me up and down, he goes, "Oh, this is a real dad fit today." And then my oldest was like, "Yeah." And then I was like, "Oh shit." They have a point. Like what I'm wearing, even
Hmm.
I'm a little bit embarrassed. Maybe embarrassed isn't the right word, but I was like, oh my God, it's so midlife dad-ish. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
I've had a few moments like that. I've been comfortable with it. Like right now, between the thinning on the top, my hair, and the fact that it's just kind of there, Um, and between the length and the thinning, it often is like askew, and I just go out with it like that. Like I'll get out of the shower, and it starts to just sort of align itself in such a way. Um, and for the first time, I don't know which one of my kids said, "My God, look at your hair! Like it's everywhere." I'm like, "It kind of is." And Karen's like it's just it doesn't occur to me. It's funny. It doesn't occur to me to make it. The last time that occurred to me to make sure that it was tidy was actually at my sister's wedding. I combed it. I made it. It was very proper, right? But in general, like even I'm walking down the hall and I can feel it kind of like flopping in the wind. I'm like, yeah, I should probably, because I also I rode my bike a couple times this week, so I put the helmet on. It doesn't help your hair at all. It just makes it move everywhere, right? So,
There
but
have
yeah,
been oh, go ahead.
I just the whole solid whatever outfit I am wearing, I still start with, is this comfortable for me? I don't often think, is it the right one for the moment? Again, for the first time in a long time, my sister's wedding, I wore the stereotypical outfit. I groomed myself in the stereotypical way, and I comported myself in the stereotypical way for a wedding. Um, but it's been a while since I've kind of followed those social expectations for things.
So I have to say, you did look good. I saw some of the photos, and I'm like,
Not
hey,
bad, eh?
it
I
looks
would say I've
good, man.
actually looked at the photo a couple times. I'm like, dang, guy, you did, like when they say you clean up good. I'm like, that looked good. Me and Karen, the photos, we look good. My kids, they were kind of like doing these fashionista photos. Jake in a suit, and he was wearing some Vans. Maddie had a gorgeous like flower print dress. Like we were all kind of at some point sort of looking at each other like we didn't really recognize each other because we dressed for the moment, and
Yes, you
it
stereotypically
still made
fit.
sense. The other thing too, it still made sense. Like we each had our own thing that made us feel like I had a blue suit with gold, kind of like each of us had that little bit character pieces that it's still, we didn't stretch to just be in the moment. We found something that actually worked, that felt like it was still ours. Like I'll wear that suit again. Like it was a very comfortable suit. I danced in it. The shoes were like, every decision that I made to pick a thing, it took me a while, but I found the things that match my personality. So I now own a suit that I could wear another time.
I like this. I like this because let's go back to that. So stereotypically, your family looked fantastic, and
Hmm.
and you did as well. And that's all, like you said. Stereotypically, you did your hair. Stereotypically, you wore the outfit that would go with the situation that you were in. And
Hmm.
sometimes, bro, sometimes that's nice. Like I find comfort in sometimes going with the stereotype. I do. Um, but other times I don't. And so your hair, there's been a couple of times where you've messaged me as you're driving, and your hair is just, it's
Yes.
Einstein-ish, as it
Yes.
reminds me of Tintin. I know
Yes.
Tintin has it down, and there's like a thing, but
Yep.
yeah, I've seen you. It's just dancing as you're driving and the window's open or whatever, and I'm like, that's nice. You're just in that. That's your mode at the moment.
Hmm.
I had a great conversation with a coworker I respect the other day. This was funny. The coworker came into the room that I was in, walked up to me, asked me how I was doing, and touched my shirt. He rubbed the shirt. I'm like, "Did you just touch my material?" And then we started laughing, and he was complimenting me on the shirt. And I looked at him in a strange way, and I'm like, "Get out of here. Like, what the F you doing?" And then we started talking about, I'm like, "I don't tuck my shirt in anymore." Like that's just a rolling thing. And he's like, and he doesn't tuck his shirts in either for the similar reasons. And I just said to him, I don't. That's why I said this shirt. It's a nice shirt that's not meant to be tucked. So now I'm buying shirts like that,
Hmm.
and there's reasons why, right? And so I'm telling him, yeah, this I don't tuck anymore, and I don't really care. I don't care if somebody looks at me and says, "Wow, that guy's really not dressed professionally." I'm like, "That's great. Are you done now dealing with that, so we can move on to maybe
Hmm.
more important things of the content that happens in my work rather than what I look like?" And then I'm also really open to the idea of having a hard conversation about why I dress the way I do. So it's almost like I'm open to the challenge of someone making a comment on how I dress, to then maybe invite them into the trauma that I've experienced that causes me to dress the way I do. And I
Hmm.
say that here in a nonchalant kind of way, but in that moment, that's a great way of saying, I understand that you don't really appreciate how I look today. Would you like to have a conversation about maybe I guess trauma is a strong word, but the trauma or the reason why I dress like this? Like, do you think I roll out of bed and I dress like this because I don't care? Or like I would love to invite that tough conversation to see what kind of person on are you on the other end? Are you then going to be open to this conversation? Are you going to try to back away from it? I'm going to try to measure some of your integrity here and who you really are, and your character. Who are you? Are you just talking shit because you can or you want to, or do you want to now hear a little bit of my story?
Hmm.
And then at the end of that, you can do what you want with it. But I didn't just roll out of bed and decide I wasn't going to tuck my shirt in or whatever. Um, which is awesome because, as you know, I think you know me well enough that most of the time I'm not going to invite anybody into those conversations. But sometimes I crave it. I just look and I'm waiting. Are you going to say something about my shoes? Are you going to say something about not tucking my shirt in? Because I'm open to the chaos that I'm about to unleash with that, if you're interested. And then
Hmm.
I think some people, it's not worth my time. I do
Hmm.
not want to talk to you at all, let alone in this moment. But then there are other people where I'm like, I'm feeling a vibe here. Do you want to have a real conversation? Because
Hmm.
I'm happy to open up Pandora's box, let you in, and then you can decide what you like. But I'll feel better saying to you, maybe you should think twice before you say something to somebody about whatever their situation is. Maybe.
Hmm.
I think that's a second half of life thing too, bro, because first half,
Yeah.
just ignore me. I'm not here. I do not exist. I do not want to be seen. I will do my job, but I don't want you to see me and I don't want you to talk to me about anything. Now it's like, did you just say that about my shoes? You want to have a chat? I'm happy to share if you want to talk or listen.
Hmm.
And then we see what people are made of. And then I know whether to dismiss them or not. Oh, that Joe Blow, yeah, that person doesn't mean anything on my radar anymore. I like that, man.
Well, it feels powerful. I mean, if we can still dismiss, but now you have evidence. It's no longer like it's no, and which is good. You can be discreet. You can now know whether or not you have the evidence of the thinking. And we often look at CBT practices in you need evidence of your own thinking. Well, it's also good to have evidence of whoever's in the conversation's thinking. So then you can actually make that decision. The thing that I really wanted to say was, let's say, um, season one of this podcast. I can't imagine you saying something like that. That sort of idea of having, the openness and growth mindset to engage in that conversation. So something has evolved in you over, let's say, the 8 seasons where you there has to be some perceived value in there, because I don't believe you are actually lashing out at the world. Like, I don't think it's that kind of catastrophic thing you're doing, which it can happen, and people do operate that way. Someone asks them a question, and they literally they fight. They just, like, it's like, they're caught in a bear trap. It sounds as if you are challenging yourself and the individual to ascend to a moment of authenticity, and then we'll make a decision after that. um, I think that's some incredible growth from, I'll just say, from season one to now, because that type of a mindset is, I would say, I think it's a laudable mindset, because it suggests not only to the people around you but to yourself that we can do these hard things and have a consequence at the other side that is an okay consequence. And we're clear. We have a clear consequence. We become closer, we become further apart, we remain neutral. Like it sets up the possibility of actually looking at your world in a way that says, I can navigate this world if I do these things. I can manage my relationships if I can be in this way. I think it's really cool because I understand the masks that we put on, and I get the masks we put on each day just to kind of go along to get along and not actually. I don't know if you're craving the authenticity, but I think you're noticing it, and the awareness of it says to look away is more problematic than to deal with. I like
I
it.
I like how you approached it with like the growth from the first season to now. It's that's also another great conversation, this whole idea of the mask. Like whether the person I'm working with or dealing with, whether they're worthy of me taking my mask off or not. That's the thing. Like, yeah, I'm wearing a mask right now. I don't feel like whatever our interaction is worth me taking it off.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can acknowledge that there's a mask on, and I can tell you it's not worth me taking off right now in this
Mm-hmm.
interaction. And that again, there's authenticity in a way that's in the middle of being unauthentic. Like there have been I've had it's been interesting. You have conversations with people and they're looking at you and they're like, "I know you're not being authentic." And I'm like, "I'm not being authentic because I don't see for me any benefit from being authentic with you right now. I don't want to be vulnerable with you right now." So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
here's the armor. You're right. It's up. It's on. Because I'm concerned you're going to start flinging things at me and I'm not prepared to take those in without the armor on. So I'm even willing to go there to say to somebody, "You're right." I can tell by the look on your face, you're asking me questions and I'm dodging them or I'm answering them in a way that you're not getting anything authentic. I know what I'm doing. I'm doing that on purpose because I don't see how me being vulnerable with you right now is going to be a good thing for me. And I need to protect me a little bit right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm open to those conversations with certain people at certain times. I guess I'm feeling like more comfortable dismissing certain situations or entering into them in authentic ways. I feel like some of the richest experiences I've had in my life with people are when they open up in a situation where you never imagined they would. And they
Mm-hmm.
give you information that other people might say, wow, what a verbal diarrhea that was. And then my perspective has been, and I've been guilty of that too, like, my God, that person wouldn't be quiet about whatever. But I think most of the time in my mind, what that equals to is a respect for that person. Like, wow, they just told me stuff that I know I wouldn't walk around sharing. And I have an appreciation, kind of like a contract has been struck. Like you've just given me something that I value.
Mm-hmm.
And so that appreciation and that value, I don't want to disrespect that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I feel like I'm honored that you would let me into your world in that way. Whether it's because you walk around telling everybody your business or it was just a moment where you felt like you could say what you needed to say in an authentic way. I I value that. Um, that's an honor for someone to give me, even if I don't like you. Like there have been times where I've had conversations with people I just don't like and I don't want to be in a conversation with them, but we end up we end up in conversation. Then I walk away thinking, shit, I really don't like that person still, but I'm honored that they would share with me some of the things that they did because I know I wouldn't be sharing that with most people. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go and tell Clough, "Hey, I just talked to that moron. This is what they told me about their life situation." I'm like, "No, I'm not going to disrespect and dishonor them that way. I might do it in other ways, but not like that. Not like that." So then I'm like, "Okay, my parents did a good job. There's something in me that there's there's something in me that that shows that I can live morally and ethically, which I think is
Hmm.
important. Gary says, thanks as always for sharing interesting stories, conversations, and reflection. You're welcome,
Hmm.
Gary. Thanks for hanging out.
I feel like that's almost like the Oscar music, right?
Gary's out.
Gary's out. Well, if the dude stayed with us for an hour and a half, we've definitely chipped into his Saturday morning, so that's cool.
Oh, certainly. I wonder what Gary's up to today. And every time I think of Gary these days, I crave bagels, the Montreal
Mm.
style bagels.
I keep meaning to get back to so just on the idea of food, I had hoped to actually get back over to that jerk restaurant that we were at because I am craving the pork, the jerk pork with slaw, rice and peas. Yeah, even now I'm like I wish I had that in the fridge. But I noticed up in Sutton that a new smash burger place opened up. So I don't know. I could see some mistakes happening today. Going to one of those two places.
I hear you, man. If you do enjoy that Caribbean place was
Hmm.
delicious.
It was. I loved just the like it satisfied all the check boxes for Foodapalooza.
Before we go, my
Yep.
buddy, my one of my American friends, Kyle, I was telling him
Hmm.
about Foodapalooza, and he was like, "Would you guys be down for doing a Detroit Foodapalooza?" And I was like, "It,
Well, I think more likely than not, you and I road trip, sure. Like right, like I'm fine with that. That makes sense. Road trip, whatever. Let's check out Detroit. Only because you and I have already tried to figure out what would Toronto look like, what would New York look like, right? We've had that conversation. So was that Kyle Anderson?
yeah."
I
Kyle's like,
know.
"Hey, when I'm in Detroit again,
Yeah,
there are places there that would check off the boxes of
of
your way
course.
of operating Foodapalooza."
I had when I was at university, my buddy Marie France. She now lives in Montreal. She was in res with me twice. We did road trip. Some people, some friends of ours, we did road trip down to Windsor and hung with her family. And her dad was an executive producer with CBC, the
Hmm.
French CBC. So they were comfortable. They were living comfortably, and we all piled into like his big SUV and went across into Detroit for food on a couple times. Went to a great Mexican restaurant. I remember quite distinctly the place that we went to. He he got out of the car and kind of the family just kind of sat there like regular style. Like we parked at the curb. The restaurant was just like, half a block away. He goes out, he goes around the corner, he comes back. I said to my wife, I was like, where do you go? Take a piss or something? She said, no, he was paying someone to watch her car. I'm like, really? It's like, oh yeah. He said, this is a neighborhood that if you leave your vehicle out and it's not attended, you'll come back, it'll be up on cinders. I'm like, what? And as we're walking, there was a car up on blocks. Like someone had come in and stolen the wheels, like the entire wheels off the car. I was mind blown. But the Mexican food was fantastic. I still remember the churros that I had. They had a soda there that I think, right now it's kind of popular to have the Coca-Cola from Mexico because it's made with cane sugar or whatever. So people say like that's the authentic one, whatever. I had that back in 1991, like that, like whatever it was, whatever authentic cola from there. Their
Hmm.
rice and beans, like they're refried, like just phenomenal. I'm having like a overwhelming food memory tingle right now. But so to that end, Kyle, Kyle's saying that there's good food places in Detroit, no doubt. I hope the parking's better. We'll let him drive. We'll park the car in Windsor and he can come and grab us.
When Will had a hockey tournament in Detroit a couple of years ago, I parked down there, and I think we were okay where we parked in terms of there were lots of people. It was like a
Hmm.
main area, um, but who knows?
Hmm.
But he can even direct us on that because he was saying there's a place in Detroit called Buddy's Pizza, And
Hmm.
Will and I tried it. It was delicious Detroit style pizza, and Buddy's is the original. But we didn't go to the original location because
Mm.
when Kyle told me where it was, I was like, yeah, I'm not. But he even said, no, no, we'll go to the original place and we'll make sure we're safe. And like, it was funny because he's like, I know how to do this. I'm like, I
Okay.
trust that you do. I certainly wasn't going to go to the original
Hmm.
Buddies based on
Yep.
where it's located. But we went to one of the other, there's only like two or three of them. And, oh, there's three. There's the original one, there's one right downtown, then there's one kind of outside of downtown. And I got to tell you, original, that's where Detroit style pizza was born apparently. It was delicious. And the Coney dogs, like there's a lot going on in Detroit that I think you'd appreciate.
I'm
Any
down.
foodie would.
Let's start negotiations.
First, we have to know if he's going there. If he's going to show up
Hmm.
in there in the summer, I'm open to it. If you want to do a road trip, I'd love to go back to Detroit for a good reason.
All right.
Um, I was the idea of the BC for Men retreat has come back to mind. I
Yep.
need to do something about that. I don't know what though.
I only softly started to do a little bit of Google search and nothing even concrete yet. So um, I think in my mind, I kind of said was I kind of started to do it, you know, last couple of weeks of August. I'm like, okay, I got to shift out of that. I got to focus on prepping for school. I think once I get some coasting time, by the time I hit mid-September, I'll be like, okay, I can put some brain power into this. So I don't know if we want to throw together a Google Doc and just kind of splash it with our ideas so that we're looking at the same page. That might be useful. Just so we're not double covering ground on it.
And then there's the book club that needs
Yep.
to be a little bit more organized, but I'm not there yet with this start is
Yeah, yeah.
small stuff. Yeah, I know
Yep.
you know that.
Yep. We're good.
Is that it for
Well,
today?
I believe so. I believe so, dude.
Awesome. This was season 9, episode 1, 349 of the Decoded podcast. Thanks for everybody who joined us and everybody who's currently listening. And we'll catch you later. Have a good one, Chris.
You too, man. Have a fantastic day. Peace.